I work for the Economic Commission for Latin America and the Caribbean. It's one of the 5 regional commissions of the United Nations. Basically, we have 2 main mandates. The first is to conduct economic and social research. That's for policy recommendations. The main aim is to draft policy recommendations for our member countries. And the second mandate is to provide technical assistance to Latin American and Caribbean countries in a wide array of topics, social and economic topics. That's like the brief introduction of my organization. Then about this, the second question, what's the how do we use global value chains or the value chains framework for our work? I would say that there is, just as a brief introduction, there is a revival of industrial policy in Latin America and the Caribbean. In the 80s and the 90s, those countries implemented a new economic model based on liberalization. It was very oriented to the export market. How it was the export-led growth model. But after almost 3 decades that this model was implemented, the results are insufficient in terms of economic growth, inequality, poverty. And amid this context, this scenario, the Latin American and Caribbean countries are quite interested in reviving the industrial policy. For instance, El Salvador, which is a country quite close to UNECLAC, El Salvador, the government of El Salvador, jointly with the main industry association, elaborated an industrial policy plan. And you have this industrial policy plan, but it is very broad and general in the sense that the recommendations you can find in the industry plan are very high level. For instance, foster innovation or support training and strengthen infrastructure. But then you have a question: how do you do it? You have limited public resources to support industrial development, and what's the starting point? And that's how we decided to use the value chain framework to design focused and very specific policy instruments to support the productive sector. Then first we need to conduct a diagnostic study, and then we elaborate the recommendations. When we end up with very specific recommendations, policy recommendations, instead of having something quite broad, such as promoting innovation. For instance, we are proposing to establish an aquaculture research center for shrimp farming in El Salvador, which provides support across the chain. Then, as a government, you know how to support a specific sector with very focused actions. And that's what we are doing. We've supported El Salvador in 2 value chains, shrimp farming and synthetic fibers, and 2 in Guatemala. It's non-traditional vegetables, for instance, baby corn and baby carrot, and also fine woods in Petén. It's northern part of Guatemala. And about the global value chain perspective, it has been also quite useful, the basic ideas, the concepts. For instance, when we supported the synthetic fiber value chain in El Salvador, that's a global value chain in contrast with shrimp farming, which is a local value chain. This synthetic fibers is global in the sense that it imports lots of raw material and exports yarn, fabric, and garments. And in this globalized value chain, it's important to understand the governance, who has the power in this supply. It is I would say it's a buyer-driven value chain who has the power in this chain, and and that's quite important to understand the role that local suppliers can play, and also the government can play to, for instance, increase the participation of small producers, promote upgrading instead of focusing on labor-intensive activities of the value chain. How can the government promote upgrading towards more knowledge-intensive activities, such as innovation? I mean, the design of new materials, of new, basically.
Great. So what are you learning here that you hope to take away?
Yeah, okay, this is still the first, the second day of the summit. For me, it has been so far a great experience, in the sense that the summit offers like a very wide array and rich array of perspectives to use and apply the main concepts of value chains. For instance, this morning in the first panel, there was a very interesting debate on how value chains can contribute to decent work. Then, of course, when you're talking about upgrading, technological upgrading, from my point of view, it always comes together with decent work, in the sense that if you move towards more high value added activities, then salaries tend to be higher, and also workers have like a better long-term perspectives in terms of career development. If you just focused on labor intensive and low paid activities, and this is just an example of how can I bring to my organization new perspectives that have been discussed here in the summit.
So the last question I have is, looking ahead for the next 3 to 5 years, what are the significant challenges that are most important for your organization as it handles changes in the global economy?
Yeah. As I said before, I work for UNECLAC, and I'm based in Mexico City. And from Mexico City, from our office, it's a sub-regional headquarters. We deal mainly with Mexico, Central American countries, the Dominican Republic, and Cuba. And for those countries, I think that it is very important to boost economic growth, but inclusive growth. What I mean by inclusive growth is decent work, inequality, also addresses poverty, and I think that if those countries boost inclusive economic growth, other main economic and social problems that they are facing are going to be kind of solved, in the sense, for instance, what I said, inequality, poverty, and insecurity, which is a big problem in our region. And the economic model that was implemented 3 decades ago has not been, has been insufficient to link export growth and even economic growth with equality, with inclusiveness. Then that's a big challenge that those countries face. How economic growth, export growth, can trickle down to the whole population. And I think in this challenge, the study of value chains plays an important role, a significant role. we can apply the methodology, the basic concepts to all kind of value chains, not only manufacturing value chains, for instance, apparel or electronics, which have been studied a lot in those countries, but also to agricultural value chain, primary goods and services, which are very important. That actually